I remember the knock on the door, sharp, impatient, the kind of knock that carries anger. When I opened it, my uncle stood there, his face already twisted into a sneer. Behind him, my mother, my cousins, all of them, a mob of blood. And then the words spilled from his mouth like venom. Hand over the inheritance. It belongs to the family, not you. That was the moment I realized blood meant nothing. When my grandparents' lawyer first slid the papers across the polished oak table, my hands trembled. Not from greed, but from shock. Sole heir. $8 million. Their estate, their house, their legacy, all mine. I looked around that office, expecting someone to jump up to correct the mistake, but no one did. The ink was real. The signatures were real. And that's when I felt their eyes burn into me. My mother, my uncle, my cousins, all of them, a mob of blood. And then the words spilled from his mouth like venom. Hand over the inheritance. It belongs to the family, not you. That was the moment I realized blood meant nothing. When my grandparents' lawyer first slid the papers across the polished oak table, my hands trembled. Not from greed, but from shock. Sole heir. $8 million. Their estate, their house, their legacy, all mine. I looked around that office, expecting someone to jump up to correct the mistake, but no one did. The ink was real. The signatures were real. And that's when I felt their eyes burn into me. My mother, my uncle, my cousins, they weren't happy. They weren't grieving. They were calculating. By the time we left the lawyer's office, they had already made up their minds. That night, they demanded I sign everything over. When I refused, they threw me out like trash. My own family. No suitcase, no goodbyes, just the cold street. I walked away with nothing but the deed in my pocket. My grandparents' house was silent when I unlocked the door. Every step echoed. I should have felt safe there, but safety doesn't exist when you know wolves are circling. That night, I sat in their old study, staring at their photographs. My grandmother's smile, my grandfather's steady gaze. They had trusted me, and I knew this is why. They saw what the rest of my family had become. And if my family wanted a war, I would give them one. Revenge doesn't start with rage. It starts with clarity. I made calls, first to the lawyer, then to the bank, finally to someone my family would never expect. I spent the night preparing, not with weapons, with documents, with signatures, with the kind of protection money can buy when used wisely. By morning, I wasn't just an heir. I was untouchable. They came at noon. Cars pulled into the driveway, doors slammed. The mob had arrived. I watched from the window as they marched up the path, their faces twisted with entitlement, fury, greed. They thought this was theirs. They thought I was a child they could bully. They thought wrong. The knock rattled the door. This time I didn't open it. I let them wait, let the silence choke them. Then slowly I turned the handle and stepped into the sunlight. Behind him, he stood, my grandfather's oldest friend, a man my family hadn't seen in years. But they recognized him. Instantly. Their faces froze. You see, my grandfather had been many things. A father, a businessman, a pillar of the community. But more than anything, he had been loyal to his oldest friend, a retired judge. And that judge had come with more than presence. He had come with signed injunctions, legal authority, and power my family could never challenge. My uncle tried to speak first. His voice cracked. "This is a family matter." The judge's reply was cold, final. "Not anymore. The estate belongs solely to your nephew. Any attempt to harass, trespass, or interfere will result in criminal charges. You have no claim, no power. Leave." The papers in his hand were heavy with weight. Binding, irrevocable. I didn't have to say a word. I watched the fight drain from their faces. My mother's lips trembled, as if she wanted to beg, but pride locked her throat. My cousins looked at each other, realizing the game was over before it began. My uncle clenched his fists, but he knew the law wasn't on his side anymore. One by one, they turned back to their cars, defeated, silent, and for the first time in years, I felt the house exhale. That night, I sat in my grandfather's study again. The firelight flickered, the air was warm. The judge had gone home, but his words remained. They can't touch you now. Live your life. Your grandparents wanted this for you. I poured myself a glass of whiskey from my grandfather's cabinet. As the liquid burned my throat, I realized something. Revenge isn't always about destroying someone. Sometimes it's about watching them destroy themselves. My family's greed had written their downfall long before I picked up a pen. All I did was let them choke on it. I don't miss them. Blood doesn't guarantee love. What I inherited wasn't just money, it was freedom. And I intend to use it the way my grandparents wanted, wisely, quietly, and with dignity. But make no mistake, if my family ever tries to come for me again, I'll be ready. Because the day they threw me out, they taught me the most important lesson of all. Sometimes, the only way to protect what's yours is to stop being family and start being ruthless.